What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Bladen Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time in Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. We have a great episode planned for you all today. We're going to recap all the Week 4 games except for the Sunday night game and the Monday night game, of course, because we're recording this during the Sunday night game.
And some of the boring ones. We're not going to talk about some of the
We're not going to talk about... Well, you don't want to talk about Chargers, Texans?
We don't want to talk about.
Yeah, we're going to talk about all of them that matter. Sorry,
all the
if
ones
your
that
team
matter.
isn't mentioned.
You don't want to talk about Browns, Falcons, man? Like, but and then we're also going to talk about...
I don't think there's anything we can do about it.
And then we're going to talk about the new Tyler Herro contract, because that's some pretty big NBA news. And NBA season is kind of sneaking up on us. Like, the NFL season's in full swing. It's like, oh, basketball is like coming pretty soon. So we're going to talk on that. But before we get into those things, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today?
I have a thought, and this is a take. The take that aged the worst for me this weekend is no football take, no player take, but the take that I've had that all fan bases are the same, which is something that I've said. I learned this weekend that NBA and NFL fans are very, very, very different from each other, because like a couple months ago, I asked my girlfriend to name a player from every single NFL team. And it was funny because she could name a couple, but most were just like made up answers or whatever. And when I did it for the NFL, everyone was so happy and supportive, and they were like, oh, this is so, I'm going to do this with my girl. Like, oh, that's so fun. Like, it was just all like these glowing answers. And so then a couple months later, I'm like, well, we'll try this with the NBA, which she knows a lot more about because she's a Suns fan. Yeah. And so we go through it, and she names a bunch of Suns role players throughout the list. Ish Wainwright being one.
Right.
Frank Kaminsky being one, who's on the Hawks now. Kelly Oubre being one. That tweet of that list currently has like 1,000 quote tweets, and all they say are, she's cheating on you with Ish Wainwright, and that's the only possible way that she knows who that is.
No, I saw all of those. I was literally sitting.
Ish Wainwright himself quote tweeted that and insinuated that.
He was like, bro, how the fuck does she know who I am?
None of them made, like, she named Kaminsky and like Oubre and Wainwright, and none of them like drew the conclusion that she watches the Suns or follows them on social media or is just a fan of the team. None of them went to that conclusion. They were all like, the only way a girl could know who these people are is if she's cheating on you with him. So it's just like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of replies saying that, which is just so different from what the NFL people were saying. So, you know, it's not a good or a bad thing. I thought it was, I
thought it was pretty funny. I can't lie.
I was just in awe of the sheer amount of people who just drew that. A lot of them were like, if I asked my girlfriend to name a Suns player and she said Ish Wainwright, they were like, I would throw up, I would beat her up, I would break up with her. Like they were like, if she ever said Ish Wainwright, something bad is happening. I'm like, what? You guys need to calm the fuck down.
Go to therapy, bro. Like, what?
It's like the big gag right now to be like, oh, you know, overreact and break up with your girlfriend. It's kind of a huge thing on TikTok. I think a lot of people are playing on that. It's definitely weirdo behavior.
The
biggest red flag in a girl is knowing a bench player for a basketball team. Drake's song, I can't remember the name, but the intro, that's like, oh, if she's been to the season opener, that's bad news, has done irreparable damage to the NBA community and women in the NBA community. So anyway, that was kind of my whole spiel about that. That doesn't have anything to do with much, but I just thought it was funny.
I thought it was pretty funny too. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm okay.
Just okay?
Perfectly fine. I don't know. I don't have any good stories. I'm sorry. That's a hard one to top.
Yeah, it is a hard one to top. But it's okay, though. It's okay.
It's all right.
Well, make sure everyone go subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't already. And make sure you join the chalkboard if you haven't already done that. And lastly, or I guess second to lastly, make sure you just follow us on Instagram. There's a lot of things you all have to do if you want to be a fan of Stay Hot. It's like a checklist of requirements.
Tell your mom this and follow the. Have you seen that TikTok of the guy who will say something and then just give a bunch of assignments?
It's like
Nino. Yes, I know.
If you like bean pies, go get your bean pies.
Text this to your mom.
Tell your
right
mom
now.
this.
Text this to your mom right now.
Stay Hot has a chalkboard. Tell your mom this.
Stay Hot has an Instagram at Stay Hot BW. Go text your grandma. And then, of course, if you haven't already, add us on Snapchat. Just go to Snapchat. I know you have Snapchat. If you don't have Snapchat, that's your own fault. Search Stay Hot and follow Stay Hot on Snapchat. Well, let's hop right into these Week 4 games. We're going to talk about, of course, the Miami Dolphins and, Tua, or I guess the lack thereof Tua. I mean, in my opinion, he should not have been allowed to play on Thursday. Going from, having a concussed appearance, whether or not he passed protocol or whatever, appearing concussed to the point where he's stumbling around on the field, and then 4 days later playing in another NFL game, to me is just bad practice. Like it's the Emmanuel Acho video that I think describes it perfectly on TikTok. It's like, I don't care that you passed protocol. Your eyes tell you everything you needed to see on Sunday. So I don't think he should have played, and it breaks my heart. Like I've never been like a Tua praiser, but just as a person, that's just you hate it. It is tough to watch.
I think with that stuff, here's my opinion on it, and I have no expertise in this at all. I think that it's more likely that it was. I know nothing, but here's my opinion anyway.
I love how you clarify that you're not a neurologist.
Shockingly, I'm not a doctor. I dropped out of college, so take whatever I say with a handful of salt. But I think that it's more likely that concussion protocol in the NFL is just not good enough, rather than Miami's doctors just clearing them just to do it. And if I were the NFL, I would much rather say, oh, this one guy messed up rather than our whole system is messed up, right? Tua pretty clearly had but he was stumbling on the field and they let him back in the game. I don't think that he didn't pass concussion protocol. I think that he did, and that's worse. I think the two big things they got to change is it needs to be harder to get past concussion protocol, and Thursday night game should only happen after bye weeks.
Yeah, add a second bye week, and that gets a lot easier. And there's not a lot of reason why that can't happen. It would extend the season for the NFL, which they like. If they were to make it 19 weeks and everybody gets another bye week, I think all the players would be happier, and this Thursday night football games would be safer. That would be it's tough to see the downside sometimes, I guess. Maybe big fantasy football is pushing for no 2 bye weeks or something. Who knows? I don't know if that would work or not. But I think I know they fired the independent neurologist who cleared him. He's gone. He's been terminated. But you can't help but feel that kind of feels like, oh, he's the scapegoat, because he's not the only one who cleared Tua. Right? He had to go through the team doctors too. And he had to go through the coaches had to make the ultimate decision to start him. And when all of these people are looking at him, and Ryan Fitzpatrick after the game is saying, I talked to Tua and he seemed totally fine after the game against the Bills. It really did seem like it's tough for me to have an opinion, because it just passed through so many checkpoints that it's tough for me to believe that he was clearly out of it, or clearly had a concussion, or he didn't pass any of these tests. Now, they did say that the independent neurologist made several mistakes in the release of his firing. So apparently, maybe that means Tua did have a concussion and he just made several mistakes. But then, did the team doctors also make several mistakes because they didn't get fired? So it just kind of feels like they're scapegoating a guy instead of looking at, how can we reform this at a more national level? I would agree. And it was a pretty nasty hit, on Tua, the actual hit itself. He really, when he got twisted and whipped down, he really that was some major whiplash. He really hit the ground hard. And even if he didn't have a concussion the week before, I think that was still enough to give him one. But, the 2 and 5 days, it's a lot. And it's the scariest thing in the sport when you see someone on the ground and unconscious or their hands are locked up. We saw it with Donald Parham last year. It just makes you sick. It makes you sick the rest of the game, and it's incredible that players even have the bravery to go back out there after something like that happens on the field. It's brutal, but hopefully no measures got put in place. Just one guy got fired, but hopefully we can be lucky enough that we don't see stuff like this
and NFLPA yesterday agreed to parameters of updated concussion protocols, and we didn't get a list of what those are, but all we know is that under the new rules, there would have been like no judgment call that could have been made to allow Tua back in the game on Sunday against the Bills. Like after he stumbled getting up, like it would have been case closed. He's done. So that's the only thing we know for sure. But we don't have like a list yet, I don't think, of what the actual updated protocols are. But that's the only, I guess, step that has been made towards that.
If you watch football, you need Fubo TV. Fubo TV gives you complete coverage of college and pro football with NFL Red Zone plus games in 4K at no extra charge. Over 100 channels of live sports and entertainment for a fraction of the price of cable. Watch on all your devices and never miss a game or an episode of your favorite shows with the included cloud-based DVR. Plus, there's no contract, no commitment, and you can cancel at any time. Right now, you can try Fubo TV free for 7 days and get 15% off your first month. Just go to FuboTV.com/stayhot. That's FUBOTV.com/stayhot.
But as far as the actual Thursday night game goes of Dolphins versus Bengals, the Dolphins suffered their first loss of the season, and it wasn't really all bad. Like I made a post on TikTok talking about how, I do think the Dolphins are going to have to, especially once Xavier Howard went down, you have to be able to adjust your defense from just, single high cover one, man blitzing all the time. And like, I get that that's your identity, but when you have, backups out there one-on-one with T. Higgins, who has a black hole for hands and is one of the best deep ball targets in football in key scenarios, I just don't think that can be something you let happen.
I agree. I think that they're a little bit too aggressive. And for the most part, like we even saw it last week when they won, right? They had that super ridiculous, I don't want to keep bringing this one play, but they had that super ridiculous blitz on 3rd and goal. And here, they just trust their cornerbacks because they've spent so much money on that cornerback room. They trust those guys to an insane extent. And then when you have Howard actually go out, and especially against a team like the Bengals, who very desperately want you to put bad cornerbacks one-on-one with their amazing receivers, it's just not a recipe for success. So they've got to be a little bit more fluid in what their game plan is.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They've gone to the Belichick school of put your number one receiver on, or put your number one corner on their number 2 receiver, and then give help to the number 1. That's what they like to do. And if you were watching, Amazon has the All 22 angle on Thursday Night Football, which is rare Amazon W, but you could watch them play one high on them, and you could see Holland almost always aligned to Jamar Chase's side. And honestly, like, it wasn't a bad strategy for most of the game. Xavier Howard did get beat by T. Higgins at one point in that game for a touchdown. That was bad. But overall, the Bengals were struggling to move the football up and down the field for most of the night. And Jamar Chase was quiet for most of the night. But then once Howard got hurt, that starts to get really, really dicey really fast. And on that touchdown, I can't quite remember what held the safety's attention. Obviously, some sort of route over the middle. But the safety bit on that left Chase one-on-one. He won right off the bat with that corner and wide open touchdown to win that game. So it's a high risk, high reward, lots of variance way to play. And I can't necessarily. It's been successful for them in the past, right? They were the number one team in terms of pressure rate last year with Boyer and Flores. This year, the defense they just held Josh Allen to a pretty modest total, and it's their identity, and it's tough to change your identity even when maybe you should with an injury. But live by the sword, die by the sword, I guess. It was working for a lot of the night. It's worked for a lot of the tenure of when Boyer has been there. But that kind of man coverage heavy, blitz heavy looks, just the injuries, it was a little bit, and the receivers, just a little bit too much to overcome. And I definitely think it's fair to question that call in that spot. But overall, it is their identity. So I get it, I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that having your identity being like, we're going to be super, super aggressive and giving teams clear ways to beat you. It's just like when you get in the playoffs, like you're eventually going to lose that gamble. Like eventually you're going to get beaten. I know Chase had a relatively quiet night, but he had that one deep shot where he got open that was just missed by Burrow. If he gets that one in, we'd be talking about like a 150-yard game.
Yeah. And I think it's fair to say,
and T. Higgins had a 150-yard game. So like that could have been a 300-yard game between two receivers.
And if Zach Taylor could, maybe get it together a little bit and not be so predictable with that receiving core, they really would have been in trouble. But sadly, he has to do the same thing over and over and over again. And everybody know it's coming. So I don't know. I didn't like it, obviously. It didn't work. And it was predictable that playing one-on-one like that against those receivers the whole time wouldn't work. So we talked about this on the last podcast where that's the Bengals' path to victory is the Dolphins don't switch it up. So I get why they did it. And in a game where the Bengals didn't torch them the whole time, I feel like it's a little unfair to say like, it was an awful game from the defense because it really
it's not
wasn't.
It's not like I'm gonna drop them devastatingly in my power rankings down to like 14 or some bullshit. It's just like,
shout out the interior.
There was a clear flaw that they had.
Shout out the interior of the defensive line of this game. Sealer and Christian Wilkins. The Bengals couldn't get anything going on the ground, which is something that we flagged before that game, was just how bad the Bengals offensive line was in terms of adjusted line yards versus how good the Dolphins defensive line was in terms of like pushing the line of scrimmage and resetting the line of scrimmage backwards. Right. So that really proved to be true. And that is a big part, other than the cover, like when you look at their defense, the biggest unit that deserves credit is not the corners at all, but the interior, the defensive line. And that was a large reason why, because they gave Mixon the ball, like 28 times. So
he had a ridiculous amount of touches and couldn't get anything going. So I guess when it comes to crediting the defense, it's not so much, the coverage was locked down as much as it was, they gave Mixon the ball a lot and he could never get anything going. So I guess the coverage was not that great. I guess it doesn't deserve that much credit.
We'll see what the PFF grades have to say about it.
I'm sure. On the defense, but Tua also, who knows how long Tua will be hurt. He shouldn't come back until he's ready. If that's IR, if that's, the rest of the year, they said he seemed fine on the plane ride back. It might be, I guess my guess would be like, it's 2 weeks from now. But Teddy Bridgewater, I thought played a little bit admirably in his return. And he was someone who got slandered because, he threw that pick in crunch time, and that was obviously not good. But it was a little bit of a miscommunication where he expected Gesicki to just continue to fire directly up the seam, but he ran a bender inside. So there was a little bit of a miscommunication, but Tua hit a 61-yard pass to Tyreek Hill, and he was making guys miss. It was a very un-Teddy Bridgewater-like game to see him
it was a very like Louisville. Pocket. This was like Louisville Teddy Bridgewater.
A 60-plus air yard throw. I was like, what are we watching? Overall, I don't think that he played bad. And overall, I do think that this McDaniels offense can function with Teddy Bridgewater at the helm, because his strengths and his weaknesses are not all that different than Tua's strengths and weaknesses. And you can say Tua's better at them if you want. And okay, fine, maybe he is. But overall, they're not completely dissimilar players. And there's a reason why they brought in Tua to be the backup this year. So I think they can honestly continue to be a fine offense, even with Bridgewater. So that's my take on the Dolphins offense.
No, I don't disagree. I had a tweet like prepared. So every time we get like into late game scenarios, I always have a tweet ready for just some bogus narrative. Like today's, it's like Bailey Zappi beat Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Rodgers beat Tom Brady. So that means Bailey Zappi is better than Tom Brady. But I had I had Teddy Bridgewater. I was like, the Panthers. Actually, I think I ended up tweeting it out anyway. The Panthers really chose Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield over Teddy Bridgewater.
Well, that's just a valid take, you know. Bridgewater is better than those guys. that's not even bait.
Not
that's
even
just
bogus.
Like, they should have just kept Bridgewater and all their picks instead of making all these moves. But I digress. Shout out the Bengals for moving to 2-2. I still have some doubts about their offense. But Burrow has not turned the football over nearly as much these past couple games, so that's good. Their defense held the. I'm talking about how the offense could be fine with Bridgewater and how it's a similar. He's a similar player to Tua, but regardless, the Bengals defense held them to a pretty modest point total. So overall, they're definitely trending in the right direction. It hasn't been against amazing quarterbacks, or it's been against the Jets, right? And then a Dolphins team who had their like something extremely traumatic happen to them in the middle of the game. Yeah. So it's like I'd like to see a really great performance against like without any excuses.
They play the Ravens this week.
So the Ravens, yeah, that's going to be a big game. And the Dolphins was a big game. I don't want to say like, oh, the Dolphins are some nobody team. A lot of people had them as a top 2 team in the league, and the Bengals won. But definitely still some questions about them with the play calling and can they run the football and still the offensive line. It was an inconsistent game from them, and I want to see them be great from start to finish still. But overall, better than bad, which is what they were. So.
Better than bad. Are you missing out on some of your favorite shows because they're in a different region? Do you want to up your cybersecurity? Well, let me introduce you to our good friends over at NordVPN. And I've been using NordVPN for years, and so has Theo. Theo and I have both been using NordVPN because we prefer the European version of NFL Game Pass. And it's a far superior product, just like top to bottom. And NordVPN makes it so simple to just watch content from all over the world. Now get this. If you go to nordvpn.com/stayhot, you can receive a huge discount on a 2-year plan and 1 month free. Frankly, I wish I had this offer when I was starting up because I have been like pockets drained, man. No, I'm playing. But to mention, by using NordVPN, you are more secure surfing the internet with Nord, encrypting your IP and location so they never get out. Plus, with their new threat protection feature, you can stop worrying so much about malware and intrusive ads, even if an infected file finds its way onto your device. Threat protection kicks in and removes the file. And with their 30-day money-back guarantee, there is literally no risk if you're not satisfied. Now go upgrade your internet browsing experience with NordVPN over at nordvpn.com/stayhot. Again, that is nordvpn.com/stayhot. It's a great product. Speaking of guys who were maybe not better than bad, we saw finally Kenny Pickett alive and well in a Pittsburgh Steelers.
Just as I foresaw.
And then his first throw, as it was intended by the football gods, was a Kenny Pick.
Yeah.
His last name is not doing him any favors for the
slander
slander nicknames. It's kind of right there. I thought that was a really terrible pass. That's all I know. Those guys were all standing completely still by the time that ball got to him. And
it was a
little unlucky in the sense that like Claypool maybe could have brought it in, but I don't know, dude.
The debut from Pickett, obviously 3 picks and an L is a bad look on the stat sheet, but you know,
it's a really bad look. That was nothing like Baker's debut. That's all I'm saying.
If you look at that, you know, that's bad. But the ball never hit the ground with him. He was 10 for 13, 10 completions, 3 interceptions. So he's like a CPU in Madden because that's always how it goes.
That is exactly how it goes.
But that's about as hit and miss as it can get, right? Like, oh, you were 10 for 10 on non-picks. You never threw an incompletion. But also there's that 3 picks thing. So he was more aggressive than I expected him to be based on what I've seen from him in college and what I saw from him in the preseason. Kenny Pickett winning in college and preseason was kind of, I think, especially in the preseason, was great accuracy and timing and just being an elite point guard, getting the ball like to these guys. But in this game, he was really like, there was a shot. He took an absolute shot from, I believe, Quinnen Williams. They messed up the protection. Quinnen Williams just beat his guy that fast. It was in the red zone. He just came flying up the A gap. Like Pickett had to stand in there and fired a strike up the seam to Freiermuth under immense pressure, hit it, popped up, started talking mad trash to Quinnen, like, I'm that guy. And that was really cool to see. He picked up multiple third downs, a couple to Pickens. That play was also on third down. But there was a slot fade to Pickens that he hit, and a comeback to Pickens that he hit. And Pickens wasn't necessarily open on those plays, but he gave Pickens a shot anyway and put the ball in a place where Pickens could get it and gave his elite wide receiver, or at least an elite contested catch wide receiver, a chance on those plays. So the aggressiveness surprised me. He was pushing it well past the sticks on third down. He was hanging in there and airing it out. And that's not quite what I expected under the face. He was kind of a knock on him coming out of school was he'll lower his eyes too fast when the blitz is coming. He's a little bit too quick to take the check down, right? So that kind of aggressiveness was nice to see. And overall, I think it does give the offense a higher ceiling than they've got with Mitch Trubisky, who has not pushed the ball down the field at all this year, who almost certainly would have taken a sack when Quinnen Williams came like flying up the A gap. So in that sense, like that I'm like, okay, maybe this offense now has a higher ceiling and can, it's better on third downs and there's going to be more explosive plays now that Pickett's there if he's playing like this. But at the same time, you're right, Matt, that everyone was kind of standing still by the time that ball got to Claypool. And that's the kind of, you pay Claypool, who's supposed to be this elite. I get taking the shot. He's one-on-one with LaMarcus Joyner. I'm going to give it a 50-50 ball.
Well, I don't know if I would consider that one. It was a double. That was a double covered.
But by the time the ball got there, Claypool, like the cornerback, had been able to run into the play and make the pick because he came to a full stop. And there, the talent is like, okay, I'd like that ball to be like 5 to 10 yards farther out in front, and maybe that ball just hits the ground when he loses it instead of the cornerback run. And the play to the second pick, which ended up being a game losing pick, he really stuck on that first read, and it's tough to tell without the L22, but it looks like Deontay Johnson was running a vertical, and he like waited for it to be open. He's backing up. Oh, it's not open. And then he just like throws a contested pass into the flat where it's like the risk reward there. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Throwing a contested pass that like either it picks up 0 yards or something bad happens, and something bad happened. So it's like it's like that was a bad decision. Claypool was on a 1st to 10, so maybe that was a bad decision. So it was very kind of hit or miss to me. It's like maybe you don't, like, knowing Pickett, he doesn't quite have the facilities to play like that and be, Josh Allen or whatever you want to say. I don't know.
To me, it seems like he just went out there and was like, well, I'm going to be aggressive. Yeah. Because that Claypool deep shot, okay, like, yeah, he is kind of your contested catch. He's down there somewhere guy. But you could get that shot on any play that you ever wanted. Standing still, Claypool, like you're just throwing a jump ball at that point. You can do that whenever. And as far as the other one, it was just another
in the backyard. With
it was 1st and 10 when he threw that. It was 1st and 10 when he threw that, and we'll see if there's any better options than that on the All-22. It's tough to know, but it wasn't a great. It was partially on Claypool, and you'd like to see him just moss the shit out of a guy, but also, Pickett's not exactly free of.
Make a better decision. Make a better throw if you're going to make that decision.
But I agree, though. I think Pickett went into that game and said they've been ripping Trubisky for not taking the deep shot when it's there. This whole, like, I've been in the quarterback rooms. They want someone who's going to be a little bit more than that. And I mean, he was throwing jump ball. It was all fuck it. Pickens is over there somewhere. Fuck it. Someone's down there somewhere. There was a lot of that in that game, which isn't always a bad thing. it isn't always a bad thing, especially when those throws are to Pickett and Claypool or Pickens and Claypool. But overall, it was just kind of a debut where it's like, well, this one can't be remembered fondly, but there were some decent moments. I will defend. I think it was a little bit better than the stat sheet indicates.
When like he was asked to go in to the game, coach is over there giving him like a talk, and it's like, listen, man, this is your fucking time. This is your team. I want you to go out there and just give them hell. Maybe. And then his first pass is an interception.
I think that
I can imagine that's how. Maybe that too.
I genuinely, honest to God, think that's what it is, because they're getting so frustrated. They have like the most conservative Mitch Trubisky quarterback out there. It's like
Matt Canada offense. Yeah.
At least if he's throwing a jump ball, he's giving the guys a shot at it.
Yeah.
On the other side,
the Jets also played in this game.
Yeah, the Jets also played, and Zach Wilson made his debut, and it was up and down.
Yeah,
it was up and down. He can look, to say some nice things about him. He can rip some slants. All right, there were definitely times in this game. Hey,
that feels backhanded.
Hey, no, well,
he can throw a nice slant.
There are quarterbacks who Mitch Trubisky completely avoids the middle of the field, you know? So sometimes it's nice. And he did what it took to win at the end, right? He was nice in the last drives to win the game. He didn't turn the football over. He didn't do anything catastrophic.
True.
There were some nice plays over the middle in tight closing windows to Corey Davis or whoever it may be. And overall for Zach Wilson, since he was on such a disastrous pace before, like at the beginning of last season, he was outside of structure, just throwing pick after pick. And then he got hurt. And then Mike White won a game, just checking it down all game. And then after that, Zach Wilson started like checking it down all game, and he avoided picks, but it was also just not a very explosive offense at all. In this game, there was still some of those nice kind of game managery type of decisions, which is a nice step for him. There were some nice moments, especially towards the end with that. But there were some times where I thought there was a play where there was play action, all the linebackers bit on it. There was a wide open crosser, and he's standing there, and he's got a quick release. He can hit that crosser, and he's looking at it. But at the same time, the left tackle lost, and he was under pressure. And the pressure scared him more than the open crosser enticed him, and he rolled out and he threw it away. So it's like, I get that there's pressure, but you got to rip that. And There was a deep crosser where he threw the pick, pretty open pocket, and he was a little bit late to throw it. He wanted to make sure it was really open over the middle of the field instead of kind of throwing with anticipation, which made it a little bit late. And then it was an inaccurate ball. And one of the other corners on the other side of the field was able to disengage from his man and just go run and track it down. That wasn't a great throw. The near pick six to Micah, Conklin probably could have come down with that, but it was again just an overthrow on kind of a gimme short pass. But could have been a better ball. And overall, a lot of incompletions on this day. It was an up and down day. I'll say it was an up and down day. He definitely didn't look great. He didn't look amazing, but he won the game. He had a game-winning drive, so it's tough to convince Jets fans that he's not him when he had a game-winning.
It wasn't all bad, but man, when it was bad, it was like, yep, Zach Wilson.
Wasn't much down the field. Again, he's someone who's supposed to at this point be a totally dynamic guy, like he's supposed to be. People were comparing him to Mahomes over and over again, leading up. He's the second overall pick. And yet we didn't really see this in this game, and we haven't seen it for very much at all over the course of his career so far, is him actually like rolling out of the pocket and doing something positive with that, like like we actually, like the slants are nice, and some of the game manager stuff at the end, of the like quick decisions and all that. It's nice to see, and that's the foundation that you need. But still plenty of bad decisions and just not a lot of big plays in this game for him. So you got to start seeing that back.
That'll be a pretty big ad. There's probably
Garrett Wilson was back.
He was he? Man, I didn't see him all game. I thought that he wasn't playing.
Nope, he was playing in this game. There was a bunch
of very low target share.
Right. It wasn't a low target. Well, they don't pass it 60 times anymore. So I think they've still got a bad quarterback, and their target, like, and the amount of times that he can get targeted just like went down by 60%. So he's not going to be as relevant in fantasy over the next couple weeks.
Yeah, he did have 2 catches for 40 yards.
But it was Breece Hall's biggest game yet. Yeah, it was Breece Hall's biggest game yet. And I don't know. I'll have to watch the tape on him. He didn't look crazy great, but overall a solid game from him. And a solid game from LaMarcus Joyner. Shout out LaMarcus Joyner. He had like a god tier game in this one. He was making picks. He was batting passes. He's the one who broke up that pass to Claypool. He's the one who had that pick on the Hail Mary. He was everywhere in this game for whatever reason. It was the LaMarcus Joyner game. Another good game from Sauce. He avoided.
Yeah, shout out Sauce. Stills. That man is like making a deal with the devil at this point to not allow it.
Deontay Johnson was this close, but he's been great.
Close. Donovan Peoples-Jones was that close 2 weeks ago.
Close doesn't count for anything in this game, I'm afraid. So
close only counts in hand grenades and horseshoes. That's what.
And this is neither of those things, so he's in good shape.
This is football.
Anyway, Jets, we'll see. I mean, I'm going to let them be happy because their young quarterback came in and won a game. We'll see what they can do. The Steelers fall to 1-3, and their next couple games are against the Bills, the Bucks, the Dolphins, and then the Eagles.
Ooh, dude, jeez, that's got to be the toughest 4-game stretch for any team. And it's at Bills, at Dolphins, at Eagles.
Yes.
Dude.
Damn.
So we'll see if Tomlin can avoid going 1-7 by Halloween, much less getting the winning record. But I think that's why they put him in against the Jets. They're like, let's put Pickett in against the Jets because we know we don't want Trubisky, and let's not put him in against the Bills. So I think they wanted, which is why it's tough that Pickett threw the 3 interceptions, because you were hoping for maybe a little bit more of a confidence boost, a win, and instead it's 3 picks
going into the 4
and now
hardest
you're going
stretch.
into the hardest stretch ever. So Steelers season, I'm ready to say it's over right here and right now. Sorry, Pickett.
It's not looking good.
If Pickett can play well over the next couple games, I will say he should win Rookie of the Year. But I just don't think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna happen. I think the Steelers season is finished. I think they're done. I think it's safe to say that I spend more time than the average person watching and breaking down film. I mean, sometimes I'll stay up all night just breaking down every little aspect of a quarterback's throwing mechanics. So, with that being said, sometimes I need a solid cup of joe to keep me going all through the night. So, let me tell you about Trade Coffee. It's a coffee subscription unlike anything you've tried before, because they partner with top independent roasters to freshly roast and send the best coffees in the country direct to your home or on your preferred schedule. The coffee I get from Trade is so good, I can't believe how much I like what they picked for me. And their team actually worked with us to create our own custom collection, which is great for me because I don't have to settle with just any average cup of joe when I'm up late in those film sessions. If you're like me and want your coffee to taste like a perfectly thrown goal line fade, go check out my collection at Trade. And if what I got isn't up your alley, don't worry. Trade will take whatever it is you want. You can shop their most popular coffees by roast or flavor profile, or you can take their coffee quiz and get expertly matched with coffees you'll love. You've got nothing to lose because Trade guarantees you will love your first bag. If not, they'll work with you to replace it for free. So if you want to support small businesses and brew the best cup of coffee you've ever made at home, it's time to try Trade Coffee. Right now, Trade is offering our listeners a total of $30 off your first order plus free shipping at drinktrade.com/stayhot. That's drinktrade.com/stayhot for $30 off your subscription to the best coffees in the country.
Oh, I mean, a season that might also be cooked, but I don't know if I'm ready to say it, or I guess probably we would expect it anyways. The Detroit Lions. No one had super high expectations for them, but here's the thing with the Lions, right? They have the number 1 scoring offense in the NFL.
Yeah.
140 points, and they are 1-3.
Man. Well, it's because their front seven sucks.
Yeah, their front seven is really.
And their secondary.
Yeah, the secondary has had some good games. I'm willing to say that this was just a Geno Smith masterclass, and
Let's talk about Geno Smith. Let's talk about Geno Smith. Do we know where Geno Smith ranks in EPA per play right now among quarterbacks?
It's a fake stat. Don't care.
Probably very high.
It's top 5 completion percentage. He's first by far. It's first by far. He's completing almost 80% of his passes. Keep this up, and he's beat the all-time record for completion percentage in a season. And his average depth of target, it's middle of the pack. It's not like crazy high, but he's not like someone who's averaging like, he's throwing it to flat every single play. Guys are doing something with it. This was a masterclass by Geno Smith. This was an amazing
Why isn't
game.
Geno like this in my Madden franchise? What?
You're just skill issue, I suppose.
Skill issue. I had
but
to bench him for Baker.
Dimes. The first touchdown to Disley, it was cover 1. You had 2 tight ends split to the right. They both ran vertically. One got a little bit wider, and then that left that one-on-one with the linebacker for, I think it was Will Disley. Great pocket because the Lions off defensive line sucks, but it was well covered, and it was just a perfect dime from Geno to Disley right on the top shelf where only his guy could get it. Perfect pass. There was a pass to a 26-yarder to DK Metcalf where he was on Akuda, which was a matchup I was super interested to watch. Yeah. And indeed, Akuda did the whole huge press coverage. It kind of knocked DK back a little bit off the line of scrimmage. He was with DK the whole way down the field. But it was just a perfect throw, an indefensible throw from Geno Smith for an explosive play.
Words of Dan Marino, you cannot guard a perfect pass.
You can't guard it. He was on fire in this game. He was really accurate. There's a play where the Lions had this kind of all-out blitz, and I think it was Kenneth Walker, and I don't know which white tight end it was of theirs. They've got a couple who blew an assignment, and they both blocked the defensive back and left, I think it was Hutchinson, unblocked, and Geno got killed, and he threw it up, and it was an explosive play to Lockett. It was just a good job getting the ball out in that situation and accurate enough where Lockett could go out and get it. He was really good. His stat line speaks for itself. He really was playing that well in this game. The Seahawks had 12 plays over 15 yards in this game. Detroit had 11. It was just some great offensive structures and some great skill position players and decent offensive line play, or really good offensive line play, I guess. Dunking on
shout out
depleted defense.
The Seahawks, the Seahawks defense really, I don't think played that bad in some instances. The Tariq Woolen pick 6 was a really good athletic play by him. His
speed,
bro, he runs a 4.3.
It's crazy. He's like as tall as Hawkinson is when you watch him line up on each other, right?
Yeah, he's 6'4".
And Hawkinson runs the route and he's open, right? And Woolen is following him. Goff throws the pass and Woolen just hits like the Mario Kart speed boost and just flies in front of it and then gets the pick 6. He's
insane,
so big and fast.
Yeah, but I think if he keeps making plays like this, I think he could have a really nice career as a corner.
Yeah, it's just shockingly the 6'4" guy who runs a 4.3 is
good at football. You know.
Talk to me about Dante Jackson, man.
Dante Jackson, oh my god.
Hey, he's not 6'4".
This is your fault. You know this, right? The reason why Dante Jackson is so overrated is because that one goddamn clip you posted, and then the Panthers posted in ESPN or whatever.
Yeah,
he's a jump merchant. Did you see that play I posted today on my second account? If you haven't, go watch it, dude. It's so funny. And I understand why it happened and his thinking, but he has great athleticism and he makes plays, but dog, he cannot cover people one-on-one. He's not some sort of straw. He gets beat, man. That's unrelated though. We don't need to talk about
anyway. But yes, Tariq Woolen has been good. The Seahawks love to live in nickel. They love to live in nickel.
They have what is their one Nwosu?
Yes.
Is that his name? Bro, he's good.
Nwosu's good.
Nwosu is good.
He's been nice this season, but there's a lot of blown coverages for them. They're like Josh Jones had a pretty brutal game. Packers legend Josh Jones, second round pick from a couple of years ago, did nothing for us. Shocked me that he was still in the league when I saw him in the preseason on Seattle. He kind of had a tough day tackling. He came in and just kind of tried to ankle bite. He tried
Everyone
to
had
ankle
a
bite.
tough day trying to tackle Jamal Williams today.
Yeah.
So,
this was on Hawkinson. So he came down. He couldn't tackle. He's the same one that I think it was him last week versus Drake London, where Drake London caught it and he, instead of really squaring up and trying to attack like the appropriate hit,
ran by him.
He just ran right by him, and then London pirouetted and ran right by him. So he has not been great over the past 2 games here. He has not really been able to tackle. I don't know who got stiff-armed on the big Jamal Williams run, but shout out Penei Sewell on that play, by the way. That was an amazing play by Penei Sewell if you go back and watch the highlights. But
just shout out the Lions offensive line.
They go into nickel, they blow coverages, they don't quite have the edge rushers to get pressure in nickel. I think they're much better if they are going in a traditional like penny front where it's 5, it's a bear front somehow, and you've got one-on-ones across the board. Then they can win some, but when they're only rushing 4, Darrell Taylor's been disappointing this year, and they just haven't been a very good defense. They just don't have the guys. Jamal Adams is out. That ruins a lot of what they want to do. It's
right.
And yeah, there's been miscommunications. There's been poor tackling.
There's been glimpses with like Woolen and Nwosu, but that's about it.
Yeah, there's some players who are playing all right in flashes, but they all need to be more consistent. Michael Jackson got mossed by DJ Chark today. Yeah.
That'd be a tough name to have, no?
Michael Jackson.
I know someone named Michael Jackson.
What else? I took a lot of notes. I don't know. Tough day for the Lions, too. Like, Rashad Penny, shout out to him. He is so good. His vision is amazing. And in the open field, he's a bigger guy, but man, he made what's his name? Amani Oriwarie look stupid a couple times at the second level. So he's got some juice, he's got some wiggle, and he's big, and he's got great vision. And even this year, when like he's been disappointing fantasy wise, I still think he's been a really good running back over the last 10 or so games. So shout out to him.
So I mean, there were a lot of I always make my list of like top performers of the week, and it was almost exclusively like corners and running backs. Like that was it today. Those were the only guys that had the juice.
Yeah.
But
Lions.
you know who,
Lions. I'm sorry. I'm just being erratic. But look, the Lions have a great offense. Like if we're gonna I feel bad for Dan Campbell because every time it pans to him and they're losing, it looks like he's literally like about to cry. And they wanted it to be their year this year, but they've got a great offense. The defense just doesn't have the guys yet. I always love the stat that the last year with Patricia, there were teams that allowed less rushing yards total than the Lions allowed after contact. They were a horrible tackling team. They were a horrible run defense, just a horrible defense in general. And it's a multi-year rebuild. All right. And I don't think that they're off to a great start with some of the guys they've picked. Okudah has been, up and down to start this year. Definitely shown flashes. I don't think Hutchinson's a number 1 on a defensive line, but they are going to have like $50 million in cap. They have 2 first-round picks, and they've got the offense.
They've got to go to work.
They've got the offense, but they've got the resources to get a defense too. If they could get a defense and a quarterback somehow, that would be awesome. But that's the thing; they need both. But they have stuff.
Their offense is so good.
Yes, to be the highest scoring team right now, they're not going to be a great team this year. We knew this. We knew we knew like with all the hype with Dan Campbell, we knew they didn't have the juice on defense. If you looked at their roster preseason, we knew Chris Board is like not that good. We knew this. All right.
we just didn't think the offense would be like the number one scoring offense in the league.
They're still even perhaps a little bit ahead of schedule, even though like to have the offense look this good right now with all the resources they have, like it's still going okay. Even though the 1-3 is a little disappointing and this game's disappointing, but their infrastructure on offense is still quite good.
This is the second really close game that they could have won.
They're fun to watch.
They're third. They could have beat the Vikings. They could have won this game, and they could have beat the Eagles. They were in all of those games. They're a competitive team.
They're going to be competitive the whole year, so that's good.
Look, everyone, it's no secret that I care about my health. How else could I keep up with all my, flag football highlights and posting the Is It a Catch on TikTok? Well, let me tell you about a product I use every day. I started taking AG1 because, I'm working out or just hanging out with friends or even just doing schoolwork, watching sports. It is important to me that I keep my body at peak health. With just one scoop of AG1, you're getting 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced ingredients, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day the right way. This delicious blend of ingredients supports gut health, boosts your immune system, nervous system, energy, recovery, focus, and even aging. For me, I just throw a scoop in a glass of water before I start my day because I feel like it just gives me the energy boost I need to keep going. The boost to mental clarity and alertness is why over 7,000 people have given Athletic Greens a 5-star review. And if you're like me on a college student's budget, you get all of this for less than $3 a day. And right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop and a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/stayhot. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/stayhot to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts about the Detroit.
We can talk about your Green Bay Packers and how you almost lost to Bailey Zappi.
I've talked a lot, so I'll keep this one quick.
Yeah,
Bailey Zappi. Look, the Patriots called a good game. They ran it a lot. Shout out the interior of the Patriots. Offensive line, I think they did a good job. Kenny Clark has been wrecking games by himself over the past couple weeks and was relatively quiet in this one, so they did a decent job on him. And Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris, they carried a lot of the load, and they were in this game. And they called pass plays at the right times. They called up the right concepts. And Bailey Zappi, who is probably an atrocious quarterback, was able to keep things on the rails, and that's good. But now
is this? I'm wondering if I can use this as proof that Mac Jones isn't actually that good.
I don't think you need that much proof at this. I think you can just use Mac Jones' game film.
All I'm saying is, if Bailey Zappi can look serviceable in this offense, then come on, man.
Well, he wasn't good. Like if you watch this game, you could say
he wasn't good,
and
they scored 24 points.
Right. One of those
was a pick six
by ASU legend Jack Jones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the thing with Zappi in this game is like he just didn't, and it's hard to as a 4th-round pick, right? Who's not coming into an NFL scheme. Yeah. He just didn't know what to do. Right. When there was play action and an open like crossing route because the linebackers bid on play action or something, he hit that, and like good on him for hitting that. Or if there was like something in the flat, he could hit that in the flat with no one around anything. But like anytime those two things were gone, he would literally just stand there and like await his fate with the sack. Because they were like, do not turn the football over no matter what. Do not give Rodgers a short field and like maybe we have a chance. So like there were literally times where he'd look around and the ball wouldn't be out and he would just like stand there and like wait for the sack to come. and there was a play like towards the end in it was third down in OT. And the Packers brought a blitz and the offensive line just did a masterful job handling it. But nothing was open, and he literally turned his whole back, and like he just like turned around and like ran backwards for a second. And it's like there's just no need to be turning your back to defense in that situation. Poise and this under fire is the hardest thing for a quarterback to develop. And if the Patriots had one, they can probably win that game. But they didn't, and they could hide him.
Brian Hoyer might win that game.
He might win that game, man. Like a pro who can, is it just gonna? Yeah, like he knows how to. Yeah, throw it away
that's the thing is for me is like,
and you can run real concepts, but
I think Zappe has like enough. Like he's accurate, and like I think he can make throws, but he just looked totally lost. I mean, he just looked completely.
And it's not his fault. Like it's like he's a third string dude. Like he didn't turn the football over. Like it's not. It's like
he has not. Has he? What I mean, he's had 0 first team reps, like guaranteed 0 first team reps.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's like, oh, always be ready. There's no possible way he could have been ready for that moment.
Right. It's not like we're judging a franchise quarterback here. He did a good job taking care of the football. All right. So, and he hit the throws, even though the play clock was expired by a solid 5 seconds. He threw that touchdown. So
you have every right. Like, had you guys lost, I would have given you every right to be mad at that.
Yeah. Well, so, as far as the Packers offense goes, Rodgers was airing it out in this game. He hit tried multiple go balls. He was really testing them deep, and didn't work a good portion of the time, but sometimes it did, and they hit enough explosives to, score an average amount of points in this game. But I thought the line played all right. The rushing game was pretty successful in this one, but they just don't really have the juice on it. It's a problem. They really just don't have juice in the wide receiving core. And there's just not a lot of guys who can get separation when teams play man coverage. And it's frustrating Rodgers, and he needs to be perfect all the time. And when he's not, he's throwing it away and he's just turtling, and he's given up on plays that I don't think he should give up on. And yeah, it's going to be, I think they've got Daniel Jones next. They've got a bunch of bad quarterbacks down the stretch here. I think they can put up forward a good record and make the playoffs, but it just doesn't look like a team that has the juice to make a deep playoff run. And that's kind of what I thought before the season. That's what it's looked like. So
Rodgers looked just angry all game.
The play where there was supposed to be 12 men on the field, right? They're rushing off the field. He says, set hut. As soon as he says set hut, the center snaps the ball. And despite the fact that it was instantaneous, Rodgers still said, snap the fucking ball, even though the center didn't. It's not like he said hut, the center like waited a beat and then snapped. It was literally instantly, and he's still like yelling it. He's just an angry old man. And there were some nails throws in this game from him, but they just don't have the juice. And I think he knows it, and he's just pissed.
You know what team does have the juice? My Philadelphia Eagles.
Go to
best
town.
Team in the NFL.
You talk about them. I've talked too much.
They're the best team in the NFL. Top to bottom, best team in the NFL. The offensive line was great. They were playing in a super rainy game. Jalen Hurts in the press conference was talking about, bro, it was raining sideways out there, and everyone was just firing on all cylinders anyway. And he's absolutely right. Like, they were able to throw the ball, except for the one brutal Dallas Goedert drop,
and the pick six.
I was like, and the pick six, which like looked like a Madden. Like the ball got like tipped 40 feet into the air, and then it came down into the defender's hands. It just looked like a Madden play. But I mean, other with like the exception of those two plays, the Eagles were basically perfect. I mean, their defense was still really, really good. James Bradbury had that great interception nearing the red zone on Trevor Lawrence, where he just like perfectly jumped it in front of Christian Kirk. The run game, Jalen Hurts took a big shot on the goal line and just reached his arm across to get a touch. I mean, it's just toughness, consistency, everything about that team is great. There's just, I don't see any flaws. It's just a great team. That's all I have to say.
Lawrence looked like he'd never played in the rain before. Lawrence had a very uncharacteristic
Lights
game. He fumbled
him,
4 times.
Not good.
Lights too bright for him, I guess. Fumbled 4 times, which is a lot of times to fumble a football in a game. 4. And his pocket presence, which is usually just so great, it was poor in this game. So he had a chance to win the game at the end. They were down 8, 1-possession game, chance to drive down the field. He had time. Hassan Reddick gets push on Jawan Taylor and not Burrow. I'm not going to say it, but Lawrence just didn't move. He just stood there, and his tackle got pushed right into his lap, and it was a fumble. It's like that's so unlike Lawrence. So I don't know if it was, lights too bright. It was a big game against a tough opponent. He was thinking too much. If it was, I mean, it was raining pretty hard, but like that's not an excuse for poor pocket presence. Really, it was just a strange, like, even when Lawrence has had bad games before his rookie year. But even when he had bad games, usually you could count on his pocket presence being like pretty fantastic. And in this game, it just wasn't for whatever reason. We still need to watch a game. He's been playing well these past 2 games, but I really would like to see a game where he kind of takes over. And it's like Lawrence was the reason they won that game. He was just not just Doug Peterson was scheming up awesome stuff, and Lawrence with all of his like IQ and pocket presence was distributing it. Like, I want to see a game where he bends the will of the defense, and there was a chance to do this still at the end, and he couldn't really do it. And in general, just a lot of missed opportunities and sloppy play from the Jaguars here. And the Eagles had the ball for 40 minutes in this game, 40 minutes of possession, like to run the football like they did. Miles Sanders had a career day. I think it was a career day. Who knows? But
he had a great game.
They gave him the ball 30 times, which is not very characteristic of the Eagles.
It's not.
I will say this.
I don't know.
The Jaguars coming into this game had the number 1 rushing defense, averaging only 55 rushing yards allowed per game, and they had not allowed a single rushing touchdown. And today they allowed 210 yards on the ground and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, I thought that this was going to be a game that the Jaguars could win, because I thought this could be a game where, like, they force they have the defense to force Jalen Hurts to do stuff that he doesn't want to do. And earlier in this game, like, Hurts was late on that throw over the middle. That was a pick 6. It was really late, and he kind of forced it, and it popped up because it was at that point 2 guys could come contest it, and it was a pick. And I'm like, here we go. This is the game where Hurts like really like struggles, and then they didn't like have to throw it with him the rest of the day because they were just moving bodies on defense against a really good front 7. So
yeah, I mean, Hurts did not throw well for most of the game. Now he should have had a passing touchdown to Dallas Goedert. That was dropped, but otherwise, I mean, his QBR was 26.
Yeah,
I mean,
but it doesn't. They can win in multiple ways because he's been playing well before this. And they went up against, in my opinion, a very good team in the Jaguars and a very good defense, and they ran through him like butter. And that's something that Jonathan Taylor and the Colts couldn't do. The Chargers aren't really a running team, but they were a number 1 rushing defense for a reason coming into this. They got some freaks up front, and the Eagles, even though Jordan Mailata got hurt, even though Darius Slay got hurt, Darius Slay doesn't contribute to the running game, obviously, but still, the depth showed up, the toughness showed up, and this is why we were all so high on him. So
I think with Lawrence, it's easy to like. He's been maybe pushed into the elite category just a hair early. He's only played 20 games. It's just going to take him a little bit to come along, I think. So like going up against a super complete Eagles team is still going to be tough. And the Jaguars are also far from perfect. We saw a couple good games out of them. And I think people jumped the gun just a little bit. I think I was definitely wrong about them. Like, I do think they're going to be at least second in this division. I do think they're pretty stacked, but the Eagles are on another level right now. So I expect them to play better, but it's still going to be up and down.
And despite all this that we're talking about, the Eagles ran through them, like they just dominated this game. It was a 1-possession game. Like the Eagles won 29-21. So, I mean, Jaguars are still a very competent team. It's just you gave up 200 yards on the ground and 4 touchdowns. You weren't going to win that one.
Yeah, they were up 14-0 at a point. You know, they were up 14-0. They had their chances, just the 4 fumbles, right? You can't fumble 4 times. So, yeah.
And he lost all of them.
He lost 4 fumbles. I wonder what the record for most fumbles lost by a single player in a game is.
I think it's probably 4. I thought I saw a stat that's the most from this century. I don't think that means in the last 100 years because that would be all of football. But I think 4 lost fumbles is the most since 2000. So there's probably some Skippy McGee back in 1942 played in a game where it was like raining sideways and the field was like pure mud. Probably lost like 5 in a game. Old Skippy McGee back in the 40s. But this was the most in a long time. Looking like rookie Daniel Jones probably gave him a run for his money. Lawrence a run for his money.
It's Lawrence. Lawrence has the most. Then there's like Derek Carr 2 years ago, Minshew 3 years ago. But it was like 3 for like 20 years. The most had been 3, and someone would tie it over and over again. And then today, Trevor Lawrence decided that he wanted the record.
That's too bad.
And people still say he's bad. He's setting records.
He's setting records. Baker could never.
Baker wishes.
That's all I'm saying.
Baker might do it this year. Baker's got the LeBron stare going after seeing Lawrence's 4 fumble performance. He's like, he's gonna
throw 7 picks in a game.
It's
something crazy.
Yeah, he's having a rough go of it this year, man. Panthers offense is just awful, dude. And you know what? It's kind of sad because the Panthers all around are actually not that bad. They really aren't. Like, their defense is pretty good and their rushing attack is pretty good. Like, you know, say what you want about the offensive linemen they've picked up, but like, they're nice in the running game. It's just an absolute shame. They may have the worst passing offense of any team outside of like the Bears or something. I don't know.
Frankie Louvu has been their best offense. Frankie Louvu's their best offensive player. He's like contributed to more points
and defensive
on the board than Baker has this year. And I legitimately think that's true. Like I think he matters more to them putting points on the board than the quarterback. Yeah. And that's Frankie Louvu's been balling out this year. That guy's the truth. But
he's going to be like an all-pro if he keeps playing like this, man.
I mean, bro, it's crazy. The Cardinals did not look good tonight, and they put the Panthers away.
Oh yeah.
So like, it's just the Panthers cannot do anything on offense. But
if the Panthers could just throw the ball a little bit, they'd be 4-0 right now.
If only they had Teddy Bridgewater.
Teddy Bridgewater would not solve this problem. They're just bad at all assets of passing. Their blocking is not good. Their quarterback isn't good. The receivers aren't good. It's just that simple. And their play calling is weak. They're just weak all around.
I think Rule's a week away from getting fired. I think he loses next week and is gone. I think he's a week away.
And the thing is like that 17-point stat that's getting thrown, like the Panthers scoring 16. When the stat is that if teams always beat them if they get 17 plus, it's poetic. They're just offense is horrible, and I don't think he's bad. He's just he doesn't seem to get the guys motivated, and
they play arguably the best defense in football. The 49ers in the next game, Bosa, Armstead, the whole Fred Warner, the whole shebang.
Yeah,
he's gonna. It's over after that. I think that it wouldn't surprise me if they fired him after this game. I was kind of at the end of this game. I'm like, I wonder if they it feels right. It feels like it could happen.
Yeah, this was a game I thought they could win.
Yes,
like
it was. They've only played games they could win so far, and they're 1-3. That's about all you need to know.
I think next week. Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, you want to? I was a little off topic. You want to hear my hot take for him? Put Darnold back in.
What?
Bring me Darnold.
There we go.
I'm at this point. At least Darnold's going to throw the ball down the field. At least he's a gamer.
It's really too bad Corral got hurt.
Bro,
it sucks, man. It kills me, dude.
No, it kills you. He was my QB1.
I know, man. And Chris Sims is never wrong about quarterbacks, so I know he's going to be great. But it really kills the season for me that he got hurt. It sucks.
We could at least say, well, at least we'll see. Like it would probably go horribly because it would go horribly. But
now Corral may never get his chance.
Maybe it wouldn't. But yeah,
right.
The firing of Joe Brady was crazy. We're now on the Panthers topic, so I'll just say,
and it wasn't even in the rundown.
It wasn't in the rundown. It just always gets brought up. So Matt Rule, I think he's gone next week. Let's talk about the last. Let's go with one more game before we talk about.
Do you want to talk about Bills? Do you want to talk about Bills Ravens?
I do.
Josh Allen beat Lamar. I mean, this was supposed to be like the game. Right. I mean, this is for MVP talks, bragging rights, maybe a preview of the AFC Championship, all those things. And, the Bills defense, despite being pretty banged up, came to fucking play. It did. It looked really good. Jordan Poyer had 2 picks today.
He did.
Was it? I mean, he always around the football, man. No Micah Hyde, didn't matter. He was like, I'll fill the void.
Yeah.
They're just...
Neither quarterback played that great in this game. Like
Josh Allen played good down the stretch.
He did play well down the stretch, but the first half was bad, and that's why the Ravens had that lead, or at least the first part of the game. And you could say like there was a fumble. The interception targeting Dawson Knox was tipped by Calais Campbell, so he does have some excuses. But the thing about MVP, when you really look at the quarterbacks who maybe are putting a bad roster on their back the most, the stats will never be the best. Like that's the thing. And I think that's my takeaway from this game. It's like, yes, both of these guys might be the MVPs, but a guy like Mahomes at the end of the day with Andy Reid as play caller and Kelsey, and he doesn't have Hill anymore, or a guy like, honestly, there's not that many quarterbacks separating themselves when it comes to the MVP race. But at the end of the day, guys in great situations are always going to put up better numbers than guys in poor situations, even though the guys in poor situations are more valuable to the team. I think that Cam Newton is a good example of this, maybe versus Carson Palmer, who had Bruce Arians calling plays for him, like back in 2015. You can definitely make a statistical argument that Carson Palmer had the more productive year that season when you look at DVOA or yards or whatever you want to say, whatever advanced stats you want to use. And that's kind of what it felt like in this game, where I was like, man, both of these guys could use a little bit, like they might be the MVPs, but they could use a little bit more help on offense. We talk about breaking tendencies. In the second half of this game, the Bills blitzed Lamar. They blitzed Lamar.
Yeah.
They sent 5.
I did not expect that.
Yes, because Lamar has been torching the blitz over the past first few games of the season. The Bills never do it. But the Bills said, we saw the tape from last year, and we saw the tape from the past few games, and we recognize that it's good. But we're just going to do it anyway and see if we can force you into some mistakes. On that first Poyer pick, Poyer rushed off the edge, right? And that's why he was in the backfield to make that pick at the line of scrimmage anyway.
And we talk about like the Bills watch the film, but like think about like Lamar, right? Like that's a two-way, like that's a chess move, right? It's like, oh, Lamar watched the film, saw that we never blitz, but like we can blitz. We have blitz packages in our playbook. We just don't use them.
Right. So we talk about changing up your tendencies, and they did that a lot in the second half. They really heated up Lamar, and he did not really respond super well this time. And especially at that end of play sequence, that Poyer pick, Duvernay was wide open for most of it, and Lamar was kind of late throwing it. First of all, he checked left, and I think he could have hit Mike Davis, the running back, right before the goal line, and I think he could have at least gotten to the one. It wouldn't have helped if he gotten in the 1 inch line, but I think that was a throw where he probably could have scored. Falele got beat, the left tackle, and Lamar had to backpedal, but he looked to the right pretty quickly, and Duvernay was open, and he backed up, and then threw it. I think he could have just thrown that a little bit earlier. So
Lamar also didn't look as accurate. He didn't look as accurate as he has in recent games. So I wonder if like you get to the end of that game and you just lose a little bit of confidence, like, oh, do I have it today?
He missed he missed Mark Andrews on a double move where he was open for a touchdown. There's a really nice throw to Bateman over the middle. That was dead on accurate. And there was a play where I don't know if you guys saw the crazy play where he avoided like 1 million sacks and then just like threw it up a prayer and it got completed. Had some nice runs. Like overall, I don't think he played horrible from front to back, and Falele was a little bit to blame for that last play. But yeah, and the Bills ran it a little bit more. They came out of the second half. They ran 6 straight times, picked up 51 yards there. A lot of that was Josh Allen either on design runs or scrambles, but they kept it on the ground a little bit more in the second half. Allen had some great plays, and the Ravens front seven is a little bit of an issue, I think, is the other takeaway here. Is a big issue, actually, I should say. They have to blitz.
Yeah.
Because they picked up Jason Pierre-Paul, and he like started for them in this game. Like just they just don't really have a 1A. Like Calais Campbell's all right, Oweh is all right, Travis Jones is all right, but
Calais Campbell's like 40.
Yeah, right. And they don't really have depth there. They just don't have the guys to win these one-on-ones. They've got a bunch of all right players, I think, but they need to send these blitzes, otherwise they're not getting any pressure. And then they're blitzing an elite quarterback and Josh Allen, and right. That can go poorly. They're blitzing an elite quarterback like Tua, and that can go poorly. But it's something that it's predictable, and it's something it's a world they have to live in. And whenever there's a world that you kind of have to live in, it's tough. And overall, the defense, they were flying around and making a ton of plays in the first half, but not so much in the second. It's just kind of an inconsistent unit. And I think that it's exhausting. Yeah.
We talked about like,
it's risky.
The struggles that we talked about like against the Dolphins, right? They covered like how many yards of just ground.
Well, like the Dolphins have some wide receivers who can run a long way fast, but you're right.
If you're constantly flying to the football, like it's a lot. If you don't have a lot of rotation, you can get hooked.
It's a confusing and kind of exhausting brand of defense to play with everybody disguising, and you start in the box and then you have to drop. It's a lot easier if you start like off the ball and then have to drop back instead of I start in the A gap and have to fly backwards as fast as I can. It's confusing. It's exhausting, and it can be confusing and exhausting for the offense too. But it's a world they have to live in, like I said. So it's something they've got to figure out. And Burrow, again, you got this team, the Bengals, who have picked apart the blitz in the past, and second week in a row, the Bengals get someone who kind of have to live in that world. So
we'll see how that goes.
Ow. Yeah, no, it's a bloodbath in here. There's got to be a better way to get my dagger clean and shiny more safely than this. This is what I used to deal with when I cut myself shaving before I knew about Manscaped. Thank you, Manscaped, for keeping my dagger slick and ready for wherever the night takes me. Manscaped is trusted by over 6 million men worldwide. Join the movement by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code STAYHOT, all caps, one word. Spooky season is here, and Manscaped is getting you set with the 4th generation performance package, starting with their Lawnmower 4.0. This 4th generation trimmer also features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. Also included is their Weed Whacker. This nose and ear hair trimmer is here to whack your weeds and any goblins that come your way. Both Lawnmower and Weed Whacker are waterproof. In the comfort of your home or in wild waters, these tools are your best friends. Speaking of your best friends, don't forget to give your testes besties the way they desire with Manscaped's liquid formulations. First is Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant. You put deodorant under your armpits. Why not deodorant on your balls? And can't forget about their Crop Reviver, Ball Reviver, to give the boys a boost. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. Get 20% off free shipping with the code STAYHOT. Again, that's one word, all caps, at manscaped.com. Spend spooky season using the best tools for the job at Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code STAYHOT at manscaped.com. That's, again, 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use the code STAYHOT. Slay your worst pubes and keep your dagger clean with Manscaped.
All right.
Let's talk about basketball, though.
Let's talk about basketball. Tyler Herro gets an extension, 4 years, $130 million. I would like to sign a contract for 4 years, $130 million. But apparently Tyler Herro deserves that, and I don't, which breaks my heart.
Racist.
But he's the reigning sixth man of the year. So maybe he does deserve it. Matt, what do you think?
I have mixed feelings about this contract. On the one hand, it's like, if you don't sign Herro, you have to have him back. The Heat have no maneuverability, and like a sign and trade, like that's not a serious option like a lot of people think that it is. But on the other hand, I think there is no way someone would have paid him $30 million in free agency. I just don't think that's the case. And I know he would have been a restricted free agent. I much rather would have gone down that route than paying him now. The problem is that, like, Herro is just not that good. He's just like, he's how many Tyler Herros are in the league right now?
Warriors have like 4.
A lot, man. There's a lot. I people don't realize this. Like, I ask people, like, where does he rank among guards? People are saying, like, he's around 20. I think it's way lower than that. I mean, how many Terry Roziers are realistically in the NBA? A whole ton. So,
yeah.
And he's a good player, and they desperately need the juice on offense. But a guy who goes out there and, like, creates some shots for himself at, like, decent efficiency and doesn't do a whole lot else doesn't move me a ton. Part of the thing is this new TV deal is coming, and I've seen that, reports that they're going to be looking for $75 billion in this TV deal. The current one's 20. I said $1 billion in this TV deal.
With a B.
The current is 24. Now, obviously, the salary cap is tied to the revenue, right? So that would, from what I just Googled it for like 2 minutes. Current NBA revenue is about $10 billion a year. Tripling the TV deal would put that about 15. So you could expect maybe loosely a 50% jump in the salary cap, but that's very, very loose. So maybe you look at this Tyler Herro deal that isn't going to kick in until that new TV deal comes along as maybe being closer to 20 million. But even then, I think you could argue that if you know this big deal is coming and you're going to have everyone's going to have all this cap space, shouldn't you position yourself to have cap space so you can maneuver? Because now, I mean, the Heat's, even with a 50% increase, the Heat aren't going to be able to do that much, you wouldn't think, because Jimmy Butler's going to be getting $50 million and Duncan Robinson is going to be getting $20 million, and you have to extend Bam, and now Tyler Herro's getting this huge money. I'd have to go look at their cap sheet, and maybe they still will because it's just such a big increase. But part of me feels like maybe they lost out on a chance to get better. But then on the other hand, it's like they're so old, does it matter? But if they're so old, do you really want to lock yourself into this team this much that maybe doesn't have a super clear way to get better other than like, Bam, please be very good on offense. Tyler Herro, please be better than you are currently right now.
That's where I'm at. That is exactly where I'm at. Because I look at the deal and it's like, well, okay, you signed him before Poole resets the market. Like, all right, fine. You need him in your current state. You do need him because there's not much other juice. But to me, it's a failure of an offseason by the Heat because they didn't trade him.
Yes.
I think they need to reinvent themselves in order to win the title. They remind me a little bit. They're like the NBA's Packers, very successful organization over the past couple of years, and a team that's like gotten in the deep runs in the playoffs, but they just don't quite have the juice to get there, and they've been running it back. And at this point, they're just a little bit too old. So I think they dangled Herro for Mitchell, for KD, and they were hoping some team would be stupid enough to take him as a centerpiece of a trade. They really needed that to happen to extend this title window and add a real, not that Jimmy Butler isn't a real number one, but maybe add enough juice to really get them over the top, which they just didn't have. For as good as their defense is and as gutsy as Jimmy Butler's performance has been, I mean, they were a missed 3 away from getting to the finals. It's not a bad team at all, but I don't think they would have beaten the Warriors. And they needed Donovan Mitchell. They need just a little bit more juice. And Herro, they needed to trade him. I think they needed to trade him this offseason for it to be a success. They needed to somehow add a guy who could bring them that title. Because what does another Eastern Conference Finals appearance do for you? What does even another finals loss do for you if you're the Heat? You've been there before. You're a historically successful organization. This isn't a team that's like, if the Timberwolves made it to the finals this year and lost, it's like, holy shit, like that's great. We never do anything. So the Heat are not a team like that. It's finals or nothing for this to be considered a successful season. And like, I get why they signed Herro, because if they don't have Herro going forward, they don't have any, like, then they're really screwed when it comes to juice. Like, well, but they stayed the same. They stayed the same. They got older, and it's like, well, where does that open your finals window? So to me, it's a failure of an offseason. To me, like the contract, if it was some other team, maybe I'd say like, all right, fine. But for the Heat and for this to be their biggest move of the offseason, it's just incredibly underwhelming to me. And I think it kind of it shuts their window a little bit, or maybe a whole lot now. Not that their window was like crazy, but the only thing they could do to open that window was trade for an all-star, and they didn't do that. And the common trope is you either get better, right? If you stay the same, you get worse. Yeah, we say it all the time. And Herro's just kind of, I think, like wave the white flag. Okay, we didn't get anybody. It's just a kind of a signal that we're just going to stay the same. And I think Pat Riley, maybe he's overrating Herro and Bam and saying, we're fine with that. Maybe they didn't add in a little bit more than they should have, or they didn't add what they should have to these trades by overrating their young core. I think that might be a miscalculation that they're making right now. So I don't like it. Let me ask you guys this. Do you think the Heat, I mean, they were the 1 seed last year. They probably won't be that again, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think that they're still going to be one of those top 6?
They're all over the place. I think they'll be one of those top 6 teams. I'm not that low on them. I just think you kind of, if you haven't done it now, I don't feel any strong reason to believe they're going to do it next year, other than like they want to get Bam more involved on offense. But he's just in that tier 2 of centers for me right now. How many years are we going to say that? Right. This team feels like a 3, maybe a 4 seed. It's tough, and the gap between being a 1 and a 4 seed in the East is going to be like 2 or 3 wins. So I don't really care that much about that. I just think I feel bad. There was no winning play for them this offseason. That's what I'll say. They did not, like, there wasn't a move that they could go make. Overpaying Duncan Robinson is killer, and they don't have their full pick package because of that stupid 2026 pick swap that Houston has. And Tyler Herro is just not quite good enough to build a trade around. And if you're going to trade Bam, it needs to be for like Kevin Durant, or it's not worth it. But even if you did that, it'd kill the defense. Yes. So it's just, there just wasn't a move here. The real solution is that they needed Kyle Lowry to be better. Yes. Their window, that's why it's the Packers. Their window closed a little bit. Like they had their shot and they missed it. And now they're keeping the window to be good open as long as possible, but the window to be great and the window to win a championship, to me, it looks right. Closed. I mean, the Cavs made a huge move, got Donovan Mitchell. The Hawks, right, got better with I can't even think of his name right now. DeJounte Murray, yes. And then you look at the Bucks, who are probably better, and the Celtics, who just went to the finals. And they added Malcolm Brogdon, and the Nets are going to be healthier next year. The smarter move and the more self-aware move would be, don't give them this contract, and just, we're going to start playing the long game again, and we're so good at developing talent that we're going to kind of reset the clock and not be so mired down by this core that was a finals contender last year, 2-3 years ago, because it's just not going to be that going into the future. So I think it was a rare miscalculation by the C team, but I don't think the Herro contract is the end of the world for them. And I think by the time it's over, it's going to be whatever, but it's just, I agree. It just doesn't move me. And it just, like DeJounte Murray, they really couldn't do that because they can't afford to be any worse at shooting. They are as bad at shooting as they can possibly get away with. And like the Donovan Mitchell trade, they just couldn't quite beat that deal, could they? Yeah. The Cavs without just throwing had Bam a little in. Bit without more throwing gas. Bam in. That's the thing. And then at that point, it's not worth it. At that point, right. It's only a marginal improvement. Right. So it's I do feel a little bad for them. I was gunning for them to get somebody. I wanted it so bad, and they just didn't quite have the pieces. But we'll see how the TV deal goes and Tyler Herro goes, and they'll still be very good.
They needed, I don't know what GM out there would really fall for Herro. They needed some GM to be stupid and look at him and get entranced. They needed some racist GM out there who looked at him.
Yeah.
They needed Donald Sterling to still be in the league with Kawhi and Paul George and look at Herro.
They needed the Knicks to fall for Herro and then also have a really good player.
You're right. They needed the Knicks. They needed the Knicks to have they needed RJ Barrett to be way better and unhappy with the situation. That was the only way.
But the branding, the branding of Tyler Herro.
Yes. Anyway, yeah. So
all right.
So it goes.
I think that pretty much wrapped things up. But before we get out, I would just like to say this one thing from the Sunday night game. Mm-hmm. Without looking, guess how many times the Tampa Bay Buccaneers ran the ball tonight?
Well,
7.
The Chiefs had 28 points at halftime and they were immediately winning this game.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it was a lot of Tom Brady. I am going to go, and Rachaad White fumbled, so that means no Rachaad White carries. I'm going to say they carried it 7 times. I agree with Matt.
6. You were both fair. You were close. 52 Tom Brady passes and 6 runs. I'm looking
at it now. Leonard Fournette, -3 yards on 3 carries. This is brutal.
Not good.
Fournette is the player. Leonard Fournette is the most the player who is regarded as good in the league that I just think sucks. I don't even know why. I don't even have a film review for you. I just think that guy is ass. And
no, Theo.
I just think he's garbage.
What are your thoughts on What are your thoughts on LeGarrette Blount?
He's better than Leonard. I'd rather have prime Leonard LeGarrette Blount than Leonard Fournette. And it's not even based on anything. I just I watch him. I'm I just vibes. And then at the end of the year, I'm oh, he's just fantasy RB7 or something. I'll be I guess I'm wrong, but I just don't think that he is.
He was going to be wrong for the next 5 years.
Today he had -3 yards.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I don't know why. I truly don't I'm oh, he doesn't have this. I guess I just don't think he has the juice. But anyway.
But that pretty much wraps things up for us. As always, tons of content coming away on all platforms. We'll be back with a live stream to recap. We'll go have a full recap of this Sunday night game, as well as a recap of the Monday night game on our Tuesday live stream. But until then, as always, from Corn Boy, Bird Boy, and Lemon Boy, we will catch you all on the flippity flop.